that while we breathe, we hope. And where we are met with cynicism and doubt, and those who tell us that we can't, we will respond with that timeless creed that sums up the spirit of a people. Yes, we can.
Hello. You people know a lot about trucks. Bing, bing, bong.
From This American Life and WBEZ Chicago, it's Politics and Bros.
Maybe we'll start thinking about taking their press credentials away from them. What the hell is going on?
And welcome aboard the maiden voyage of Politics and Bros. Skipping this podcast schooner and coming at you from the studios of my apartment in Old Town Alexandria. My name is Ryan Teichler. And slithering onto the podcast from the Pigtown neighborhood of Baltimore, Maryland, it's Michael the Snake Mon. Mike Mon, what's up?
That's not my neighborhood. It's Ridgely's Delight in Baltimore. We've talked about it.
Lion Michael.
That's exactly right.
Michael.
In the shadows of Camden Yards.
Yeah.
I'm right at you.
Well, no one believes you. Alright, well, we appreciate everyone checking out Politics and Bros. This is kind of, as I said earlier, our maiden voyage. And it's really a conversation. It's elevated bar talk, Michael, wouldn't you say?
I'd agree, and as long as we're on the air before Kenny Loggins, NPR, and Donald Trump take us down with some lawsuits.
Well, we're going for the trifecta here. It will be a first in podcasting history, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
But it's too bad we start this podcast with no political news whatsoever.
None at all. It's such a strange thing.
We'll just have to get by on our wit and charm. But no, seriously, like, no longer supine in the face of absurdity, we find ourselves as part of the resistance. There's so much to get into, and we were exchanging texts back and forth. I mean, where do we even start? And I think this is one of the problems, like, that the media has, because I'm completely convinced that, Trump's Twitter is nothing but misdirection. It's the magician waving his left hand while he pockets an ace with his right. And I think the media is slowly catching on to this, but there's just so much out there that no one can really focus in and dive in and nail them on one thing.
Well, I don't know about your Facebook feed, my Twitter feed, but during the month of December, there was a lot of focus from media members and different people on Twitter that, he's trying to distract us. There was this idea that it's a constant distraction. And I think that along the way, it's really more a combination of him being inexperienced, possibly, duplicitous, and, he's responding to things that he sees scrolling across the bottom of CNN and Fox News. So I'm not sure how much this is a mastermind playing, 10-dimensional chess.
And that's my question. Is he playing chess, and is he crazy like a fox and just making the media, run in circles and chase down false leads? Or is he just this immature, maybe quasi-billionaire who has winged it into the White House? Yeah, I think that's the million-dollar question. Right,
and if you're asking my opinion, I'm leaning towards the latter. But
So what is your thought, and maybe we can kind of start on this to dive in, what's your thought on this quote-unquote fake news phenomena and the perceived, I would argue true, delegitimization of the media coming from the President of the United States? Do you think it's as dangerous as I do?
I think it's dangerous, and I think it was easy for him and others to do because I think there is some media illiteracy going on where people have false equivalencies between what they consider a biased perspective on the news and what is, just false information designed to confuse or lie to us.
Right. It's hyper-partisanship of, reaffirming your own belief, that sort of echo chamber you get in with Twitter and Facebook and all those sort of algorithms that, cater to, your preconceived, your predetermined notions of politics. But I don't think we've ever seen a party, certainly in our lifetime, that has full control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency openly attacking the legitimacy of news organizations, kind of the fourth estate of government. And, you saw the press conference with Annandale's own Jim Acosta, Trump's first press conference in 170 or so days.
Wouldn't take a question from him.
He wouldn't take a question from him. He said, "You're fake news, you're fake news, you're CNN, you're fake news." I mean,
right.
This isn't BuzzFeed, and maybe in a different episode we can get into the Dossier and all the other shit going on. But CNN, let Trump break into any of their programming throughout the entire election. The entire primary, the entire general election. Out. Yeah, just let him break in. And this is the same network that has Kellyanne Conway, or used to have Kellyanne Conway, on staff, paid her, Kayleigh McEnany, Jeffrey Lord. Hell, they fucking hired, Corey Lewandowski after Trump dumped him.
And they still bring on Kellyanne. That's not there's still an outlet for a conservative perspective. And to be honest, I mean, presidencies, they've done this before. They need to get their message out. And it just seems like we haven't seen it in this tactic before, where they've tried to delegitimize reporting instead of, joking about it. But
yeah, but I don't think I've ever seen this sort of open attack on the media. And obviously there's been, presidencies that have an adversarial relationship to press corps, but we haven't seen it like this. I think we're venturing into new waters.
We are, but I think at the same time there has been a cultural belief towards media bias. I think there's, like I mentioned before, a little bit of illiteracy towards the media in that people sometimes cannot distinguish between honest reporting, which is intended to be objective, using sources and the who, what, when, where, why of a story, and editorial opinion, which is presented on news channels and in the Washington Post and other places. But it's intended as someone's opinion with a natural perspective. But people use that to say that the media is crooked because there is an opinion on the news, which is totally different than reporting.
Yeah, no, I largely agree with you. But I think it's the scary part of this whole, quote-unquote fake news phenomenon is that the right and kind of the fringy right has said, well, the mainstream media, the lamestream media got wrong the polling, they got wrong X, Y, and Z, the Duke lacrosse case, the UVA rape case. All you guys do is print fake news.
Intel communities got WMDs wrong. They'll use that. Exactly. They'll use anything.
None of that is actually fake news. All those things were, a police report was filed. The Rolling Stone issue is completely different. I mean, that was just horrible journalism. But in the Duke lacrosse case,
you're reporting on an actual trial.
Right. The fucking lawyer or the prosecutor got disbarred because he brought such a weak case. But nonetheless, a actual police report was filed. That's not fake.
Right.
So I think there's this weird sort of, confabulation of, people who have gotten it wrong reporting on, what they know, and people just making shit up and, fitting it into some sort of Facebook algorithm.
Right. So to make an example, Donald Trump tweets that 3 million illegals voted, and if you subtract those from the voting totals, he actually won the popular vote. That's an unverifiable claim. There's no evidence of it. It's, that's somewhat fake news. Now you can compare that with BuzzFeed just dropping unverifiable claims coming from a former MI6, intelligence agent. And you could say that's fake news, but what the story is that the president and the president-elect were briefed by the intelligence community on that report. That is a story. That is not fake news. So, what is contained within the report, you can debate on how verifiable or how accurate it is. But the fact that they were briefed is a story. That is not fake news.
Right, exactly. And we should probably back up, 2 steps back. So there was 2 reports filed about this. CNN was the one that reported that the president, Joe Biden, and then Trump and his transition team had been briefed that there was a dossier floating around that says the Russian government has some compromising information about Trump, both personally and professionally and politically, right? Mm-hmm. That's what CNN reported, and that was true.
Right.
What BuzzFeed
and they stand by their reporting.
Right, and they put some of their heavy hitters on the byline too.
Carl Bernstein.
Yeah, they put Carl Bernstein and Jake Tapper on that. They put Carl Bernstein from obviously the Watergate fame, and then Jake Tapper, who has his own show on CNN. So they're putting a little bit of gravitas behind that reporting, and that's correct. So, like you were just saying, they reported that the president-elect and the president got a briefing that there is a dossier floating around that makes these certain allegations. What BuzzFeed did was print the dossier itself that was floating around both media and DC circles for almost 5 months now. Right. Which is, compiled by a former MI6 intelligence officer. It's not verified. There's a lot of media outlets that have been trying to corroborate the story, but he's held in very high regards.
Right. Right, and like you said, the story is that they were briefed, and there's additional stories on who this man is, and then there's additional stories on trying to actually verify the claims. But the problem is because BuzzFeed released this, and there's already illiteracy towards media, it's easy to then delegitimize the entire story by Trump, which just benefits him, and his followers will just continue to lap up as this is just the anti-Trump, anti-right media bias.
Right.
Which is definitely problematic for people that just like to know the truth, have transparency within our government, and are, worried about, things being hidden from us.
And I don't know if you saw the interview that Kellyanne Conway did with Anderson Cooper. Did you see that on CNN?
I did.
Oh, Anderson Cooper was just giving her the business and saying, no, you're trying to conflate the 2 reports. Like, we're not reporting what BuzzFeed did. We're just reporting that this was presented as a 2-page addendum to a classified document.
She took offense to his use of the word document, calling it a fancy French word.
Well, dossier.
It's using too much French for her.
Right.
Apparently.
I mean, I guess dossier and surrender both end with R, so it makes sense it's French.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it was just this unbelievable, mental acrobatics of not flat out lying, but, conflating one report with the other and just throwing out this mass confusion.
Well, Kellyanne Conway's job is to go on TV and lie. And that's
Sean Spicer's now, too, because he's just been blatantly lying in front of the media as well.
I mean, Trump's nominee for intelligence director has confirmed the CNN report, more or less. So it's
Joe Biden confirmed the report.
Right. So, I mean, there's confirmations from people with, principles and integrity, but there's this whole team of, TV presence that are willing to just say the opposite, basically.
So I've asked you this before, and over tweets, but I don't think I've got a satisfactory answer out of you, and I'm not trying to blame it on you, obviously. And we don't have any contacts within the Hillary Clinton campaign or senior levels of media. But why doesn't the media ask direct questions about this? And since this dossier was initially funded, the MI6 guy is a former MI6 guy who started his own company. And the initial opposition research was funded by Jeb!
That's right.
Yeah. Low energy Jeb! And his campaign, and when he dropped out of the primary, Hillary Clinton's campaign picked it up. But why didn't her surrogate or anyone in the media ask the direct questions linking him to any of these allegations? True or not? I mean, all's fair in a political primary or general, that how much money do you owe Russia? How much money do you owe Russian banks or quasi-state institutions? And how much money do you owe the state in general? And just ask that question straight up. And I don't know if this is uncouth. This would be an uncouth question for the media to ask, but it's kind of a gotcha question because there's no way for them to answer it. So why doesn't the left wing or even the mainstream media ask that question directly?
I mean, I think you have to have access to him. So he has to agree to a press conference or agree to an interview. And many times the interviews are dependent on what you're going to ask in the first place. But when you get to the press conference, which happened last week, then you have to ask those pointed questions where you can't pivot or you can't ignore. And that just doesn't seem to be taking place. And maybe CNN would have been the ones to ask that question, but he did not take that question. So.
But I guess I'm going to take it a little bit further and saying, this dossier was out there for months. I mean, the first report of it was in, I believe, August by David Korn in Mother Jones, who had met with Christopher Steele, the MI6 guy, and he broke the story.
I mean, I think that people have understood that his financial interests abroad are important to understand, which is why they had been asking along the campaign trail, when will he release his tax return?
But that's not good enough, Michael. That's not good enough. You have to ask a direct question.
I know that's not good enough, but the implication was that once we see your tax returns, we will know where you have interest. And he's constantly, steadfastly stuck to the response that he will release his taxes only once he's not under audit anymore, which we know that that's not actually like an IRS policy or anything like that. But now once he's won the election, he's no longer saying that anymore. He's just saying, I won, people don't care.
He said he won and it was baked into the election that, everyone knows I have interests all over the world. That was baked into the election results. Which
isn't, just a falsehood. It's a lie. He said he would release his taxes, which should be the statement baked into the election that you're like, okay, well, he will release them one day. But he's not going to do that, so it's a lie.
Let's just get for a second into the political strategy about this. And I was saying, and I don't mean to be, this Monday morning quarterback cheerleading for myself, saying that I don't think the Clinton campaign was a good one, and you can verify this for the listeners that I was saying this all along.
Yeah, you were saying it all. Yep.
Why didn't, Robbie Mook or John Podesta, who both aren't very good with the media, but why didn't they tell, their lackeys and their surrogates, out in the media to start asking these questions? I mean, this dossier is not a classified document. It was not a product of any sort of, United States intelligence agency or British intelligence agency. They could ask some very pointed questions that the media would then pick up on and go back to that dossier, and they just didn't do it. Even to the point where they said, okay, you say you're under audit by the IRS, prove you're under audit by the IRS. They didn't even do that.
I'm not sure. I think it's hard to speculate, but I think they thought they were playing a campaign strategy of which they were always on the high ground, and that I think that they took that tactic, they would open them up to being playing dirty tricks. But, in hindsight, this is the ace in the hole they could have had. But
the funny part of this whole thing is that Jeb, was the one who paid Christopher Steele, to perform this intelligence collection, and then it was Billy Bush who had the grab him by the pussy, line.
Oh yeah.
We text around Thanksgiving. It's like, what was it like at the Bush, Thanksgiving table or the Christmas table or whatever? Like, we're up against Donald Trump. Does anyone have anything on him?
Yeah, nope, nothing.
Yeah, fucking crickets.
Yeah.
Like, oh god, Jeb.
Just to make a little bit of a joke about Trump, though, is that he claims that everything in the dossier is fictitious because he's extra careful in hotel rooms. But we know that can't be true when he had a microphone on his lapel when he was speaking to Billy Bush saying, "You just grab him by the pussy."
Right.
So how careful could this man really be?
Such caution that he takes. Now, not the KGB. Why can't I think of the acronym for the new Russian intelligence services? But they have a long history of doing this compromat, what they call it.
Honeypots.
Yeah, and Michael Weiss has written about it in the Daily Beast in very graphic detail. And there's an article, I think it was today or yesterday, where Sasha Grey, the porn star, had been implicated by the it's not the KFB. What's the new acronym? And I'm sorry, I'm blanking on it. But she had been ensnared by a Russian intelligence compromat.
Mm.
I don't know if you saw that article.
No, I didn't. But I noticed that some of the websites that were devoted towards these fake news towards Hillary Clinton have now switched gears and become anti-Angela Merkel websites, which is just, it's easy to see now. This is Russian propaganda trying to influence, liberal democracy elections, and they've just switched gears. Now it's on to the next election to try to bring down the next, liberal country. Yeah,
and we're seeing the same talking points that are coming out of the Kremlin echoed by the Trump team. NATO is obsolete, and the Kremlin is more or less looking for a fracture within Western country unity.
Right.
And they got a gift basket in Brexit, and maybe we can get into Brexit in a different podcast. But now they're kind of sowing the seeds within Germany, which is really holding the EU together. They are the economic, engine that drives the EU. So we're seeing this replay itself out there.
Correct. And Marine Le Pen was spotted in Trump Tower this past week. So.
Oh, was she really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not. I could defend Marine Le Pen. If it came to it, if I must. Maybe I'll edit that part out. Our liberal people are like, what?
Well, that's probably more related to your takes on Islamism.
Well, it's more a part of my take on the migrant crisis, and I guess the left's
inability to see that as a problem in terms of what it's doing to their culture and people?
Yeah, exactly. They just won't talk honestly about that there even is a problem indeed. And I think most people intuitively, even though, if they haven't spent as much time reading about this crap as I have, they just intuitively know it. And so you have one party that says, this has nothing to do with Islam, and, this has, Obama even said, this has less to do with Islam than any other religion on earth. And that's just not true. And most people know it. So you have one party that says that, and another party that, if you take a scalpel to one sentence within a whole briefing that they give, makes more sense, about the situation than the Democrats' platform on it. So, I don't want to maybe we can get into this at some other time. My brain's really not in gear to go that deep into it.
Right. Let's get back on topic, but let's just wrap up by saying, we have the inaugural address coming this Friday. What do you expect we will be talking about this time next week?
I still think it's going to be the dossier, and I think it will be the Trump cabinet appointments. What
do you see coming from his statements in the address? What do you think his theme will be, and what do you think? How will it compare to prior inaugural addresses? Do you have any sort of
I actually think he'll
forecast for us?
I think he'll take a conciliatory tone and try to give like a unifying message. And I don't know who his speechwriter is.
I think that might happen for about a minute, but then I think it's going to be similar to one of these rally addresses, which he's good at. He's good at speaking in that way.
Yeah, I don't. I think he'll stick to the script, and I think it will be heavily influenced by Kellyanne Conway and Reince Priebus, and like I said, I think he'll try to strike a conciliatory tone and maybe give some red meat to the Republican right, who outflank him in the Senate and the House.
Okay.
I mean, that's just my gut instinct on it.
Well, I suspect we'll have something to talk about.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, there's so much to get into. The appointments. I mean, they're just like not conspiracy, but like ethics violation after ethics violation. There's basically a leak a day. So
their transition team is. Yeah, their transition team is leaking like a sieve. It's the most disorganized team of people we've ever seen. It's remarkable.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have a dearth of topics to get to. But I think it's pretty good for a first episode. We will definitely do better the next time. I will get a better mic. We will clean up our audio. I would fire our sound engineer, but that's me, Michael, so I can't do that.
Right, and hopefully soon we'll be on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube.
Oh, that's right.
And,
tell the people where to follow us.
Well, you can follow us at Politics and Bros on Twitter. Soon we'll hopefully have a Facebook presence with a similar name.
Yeah,
so follow us there. Follow us there, and we'll get this up to SoundCloud, and I believe we'll try to get into iTunes as soon as they vet our podcast.
That's exactly right. So until then, bye-bye.